dog lovers, and in this video today we're going to work on teaching our dog to back up. So this is just going to be a real simple exercise on teaching the dog that when I move into the space, you're going to move away from me. So if I want you to back away from me, then I'm going to say it and have you back away. This can be then turned into hand cue, back up, out, whatever you want to use as your cue. I use back up sometimes, but back is my normal. And that way, that just says, hey, I need you to move away. This is good for if you're doing something and you want your dog to move back, so you come into the door in the house and you have groceries or something and you don't want the dog right there or trying to rush the door, you can use your backup cue to mean give space, I need you to move away. I use it often for if I'm working with a dog and I don't want my dogs to come in to smell or investigate the dog, I can tell them to back up, meaning this is not your spot, you need to move out. So we'll do the precursors to that and kind of move on through there. And so I got my treats in my hand, Buck, and then we're going to use Buck to work on the backup. Okay, so I usually start on leash so that the dog cannot, exit the area that you're working. Because at first they might be confused on what you're asking, so they're going to offer some other behaviors. So it's nice just to have them on a leash so they're kind of tethered and they can make some choices, but they're not just going to go up and walk out. So if your dog knows how to sit, oftentimes if you're trying to do something up here, the dog's going to sit. If your dog knows to lay down, if you're way down here too far, your dog's either going to lay down or, keep coming towards you. So for backup, I usually use treats or kibble, whatever is motivating for your dog. And you're going to want to put it at their nose. I like to get them standing first. Buck. Good boy. So you want them standing, even if you have to pull away a little bit. And then you're going to push. Like their nose is a button. Good boy. Good boy, yes. You're gonna push on their nose with your treats. So they want it, they're going for it, they can smell it. And so you just hold them. I always put them and kind of put my thumb in front of them and then just kind of push back. Now you're not shoving your dog back, you're just pushing kind of on their nose, and then just walking into their space. So by you walking into their space with your space, and then putting some pressure on their face, they often will back up. If you're too high, your dog will sit. If you're too low, sometimes the dog will try to lay down or navigate out of the exercise. So try to find that sweet spot on where you want to do it with your dog in the backup. If you have a small dog, you might need to kneel so that you're down close to their face level. I'm going to take a little video of my Chihuahua and doing it with her so you can have a better idea if you have a small dog. So at first I don't actually use the cue. I just work on getting the movement away from me. And then we start to add the verbal cue. So Buck's had a little bit of practice with this anyway. Back. Yes, good boy. Now as soon as he takes a couple steps back, move that thumb, open your hand so the dog gets the treats. You want to reward the backward movement. Back. Yes. Back. Yes. Good boy. Back. Yes. Now you're starting where you have the treats in that hand. Yes. Good boy. Drop one pretty. Back. Yes. Back. Yes. Now it doesn't have to be straight back. We just want the dog to move away. If they're in the sit, pull them forward. Back. Yes. Good boy. Back. Yes. Back. Oh, yeah. Good boy. There you go. Now, we're going to try this here. You want to get a good backing away. So the dog's backing away. And then when they start to anticipate, as soon as you got that food down, they're like, whoop, whoop, and they start to go back. Then I put my treats in the other hand and just use my the hand that had the treats, that's booping on the nose or pushing on the nose, has no treats and will still do the same action, but the treats will be in the other hand. So you can immediately reward, but the dog doesn't have to smell, see the treat to do the exercise. This is how you can slowly phase out the dog seeing the food or the reward to get the behavior. So we'll do one more with it in the hand. Buck, back, yes, good boy. And then we'll do it without. Back, yes, good boy. Good job, sit. Now, it can get boring for the dogs that have a lot to do, yes. They've got a lot going on in their brain, backing up, okay, this game, I got it, it's boring, let's move on. So if you have sit, down, eye contact, recall's another one I like to work on with the backup. And so you can throw those things in there along your exercise because the dog knows them, they're familiar with them, it helps them go, oh, I can do this, I get it right. It also keeps them from getting bored of doing the same thing over and over and over for 5 to 10 minutes. I usually don't try to work a dog on a specific exercise or cue in more than 5-10 minutes at max, but usually 5 minutes. I will work a dog, 15-20 minutes if I'm doing multiple things. We're working on loose leash walking, heeling, back up, sit, eye contact, down, place. If I'm working on all those in a 20-minute span, I'm doing multiple things to work with the dog. I'm not just picking what we're working on, sit for 20 minutes. That's too much. It gets boring. Your dog is not fun. They don't want to do that. You wouldn't want to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So, buck in. Yes, good boy. Back. Good. Back. Yes. And then you can vary it. You can put it in there. Pull it forward. Back. Yes. Sit. Good boy. In. Good boy. Back. Yes. Good boy. Now the reason I use the push, one, it helps the dog learn the exercise, but two, I talk with my hands, if you haven't noticed. I also usually do a hand signal plus a verbal cue for my dogs when I teach them things. So for me, I actually point when I tell my dogs to back up. So kind of like from my shoulder out, like, no, you need to get back up. So with doing that, you're going to transition from pushing your dog back to pointing, and then you'll just get it where you can point and you're not actually having to put your hand down with the treat to push the dog backwards. But we want them to understand what you expect of their feet, the movement of them as an entity, as a whole, for the cue. So back up means you need to move away from me as a whole. Buck, in, good boy, back, nope, back, yes, good boy, back. You can also do, yes, that's too much. So there, you can see he wants to sit because my hands are up and that's my cue for sit is this. So it gives you a good idea of working through. I like to work through the dog to see, okay, what are you taking from me? What do I do as your person, your handler, that cues you to do certain stuff so we can phase those out and troubleshoot. Okay? Good boy. So we're going to try this. Back. Yes, good boy. Good boy. In. Sit. No, we dropped him. Sit. Yes. Good boy. Focus. Yes. Good boy. Back. In. And we'll do one with the hand. Back. Yes, good job. Okay. Free. So that gives you a little bit to work with. You're going to start out teaching the dog, when I push on your nose, then you're going to move and make space. And you're going to walk walk with it. So you're using your space bubble to kind of push at the dog's space bubble as you go. They're very receptive to that. And then you can work on, once you're getting your dog to move back, when you put the treat and your hand on their nose and give them, walk into their space, then you can start to go, okay, well, let's try having the treats in the other hand and doing the same cue. Or you can do what I did, where you put it down to the side and then practice working in with your space. I like to really work this one, where you're actually have the treat and you're walking with the dog multiple times, 5 minutes at a time, and then try to get it in randomly throughout the day for at least a good week, depending on your dog. If they're picking it up quick, then you can kind of start to try some where the treat's in the other hand, or some of both, treats in the other hand, then you put some in the hand, or you got it both where you're trying to, you walk the space. You can have your hands up, but I'm thinking if you're using it for sit as well, you're gonna get the same response that I got from Buck when my hands were up. He thought, oh, Mom wants me to sit, so he's doing that because he's taking what he's learned and using it to try to guess what I want him to do. So start there, work it through, and then once you're getting where you can move space, so just taking a couple steps into the dog, or you have your hand, and you're kind of doing this, and the dog is moving away. Then add your point cue. So if you can do this with no treat, the dog starts to anticipate, moves away on its own, then point. Then go start here, but then turn it into a point. If you have your hands down, and you can move and take the space and the dog moves back away from you, then add your point. And be slower with your push, your space push, so that the dog will move first without you having to move towards them. They'll start to anticipate and go, oh, this is what they want, boom, 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 and back up, versus you having to help them back away. That's how you'll get it so that the dog will move away without you having to move towards the dog. But we have to start someplace so that the dog understands that you want them out of your space. So we'll start there. I'm going to do a little bit with my Chihuahua so you can get a better feel for a smaller dog. Okay, so we got our tiny little Chihuahua. So if you're going to work on back up, you might need to get down on their level, so that way you can do the same thing. You don't need these giant pieces of food. All right, so you're going to do the same thing. Put it in your hand, and then push them back. Good girl. Back. Good girl. Back. Good girl. Back. Yes, good girl. Back. Good girl. Yes, good girl. So I'm not even pushing on her. I'm just cupping my hand, and she's backing right away. Good girl. Back. Yes, good girl. Now, you can also use, I have wet dog food and a spatula. If you have a hard time getting down on the floor, and you have a small dog, you can work on the couch, or have a spot where the dog can jump up to you, or your bed, and sit down and get the dog to work, because then you will be right there at face level. If you're standing and they're way down there, you can use a spatula with spray cheese, wet canned food or something. Yeah, we know. And then, yes, good girl. No, back. Yes. And then you kind of boop their nose with it. Back. Yes. But you want to make sure you're moving into their space. Because if I just push this, you're not going to get as much of a response as you will if you are walking. Good girl. Plus, you can get them saying, you want them to work their way out of the kitchen, you can use it and back them right out of the kitchen. Back. Yes. Good girl. Back. Yes, good girl. Now, try to wipe some of this stuff off here. Then you can also use it as a target. So, back. Yes. And then drop a treat. So then you would take, so there's no wet food on it. Well, there's a little bit now, but And you're gonna push back, yes. And then you drop the food to the dog. So you have, treats or kibble, I have some kibble here. And I'm gonna drop it to her after I have her back up. Back, yes, good girl. So make sure you're still marking her moving away with your yes, good dog, whatever you're using. Back, yes, good girl. So there, I didn't even touch her with it. She's about a couple inches away and backed up on her own. Back, yes, good girl. Hey, girl, sit. Is it cold for your butt? Yeah. So, if you have a smaller dog, you either want to get down on their level or have something like a spatula or a spoon or something that extends your arm so that you can reach down there and that you don't have to bend all the way down here every time to push your dog. I mean, you can, but you want to make sure that you're down at their level on some form with your reward to help them understand that they need to back up and make space. If you've got a little small dog and they love to charge and bark at things, this is an exercise I start a lot with. A proper place. It's fine. Good girl. On top of place and recall. So I might teach the dog to go to a place, might teach them to back up, or come when I call them. When we start to work on door and noise stuff. She has some of that we're working on. Yeah, good girl. All right.